Well, welcome everybody. My name is Víctor González. I'm currently a lecturer at the University of Kent in the United in Spain. I'm here today to present this research called Cuando despertó, analysis of the presence of losing culture in the stereotypes in Spanish as foreign language manuals, together with didactic proposal based on Isabel Cochet's Spain Day. When we started this research, we imagined it as like the natural, logical next step, considering our personal professional experience. Being myself born in a small city in central northern part of Spain called Valencia, I would normally introduce myself to my students, just telling them I came from Spain, I came from Barcelona, the place where, like, a couple of interruptions, but the place where I've been living and teaching for the last 6.5 years. And there would always be this kind of natural, automatic response saying things that, oh, España, Barcelona, sangría, playa, calor, Barceloneta, Pachá, Ramblas, Sagrada Familia, Mexico, Shakira, Guacamole. And initially, I was a little bit reluctant to these kind of responses, since definitely those ideas did not fully represent my Barcelona, my Spain. But somehow, if that was the response my students had, that meant there was some kind of relation, like a hidden relation for them, and somehow Shakira, guacamole, tortilla, caliente, they were internally connected to them. And I had this click, and why not using that? Why, instead of refusing that the responses, why not using this knowledge in order to better perform in the class and to get like further knowledge within the teaching and learning of Spanish. And so we started this research again, and we did it covering three main areas. First of them was like establishing or like readjusting this modern idea of plurilingualism. And considering we were like language teachers, we decided to analyze the class in the same way Krashen did already back in 1987, and understand or admit that, as he said, like classroom will never overcome its limitations, will never be as a good learning space as the real world is. But that at least should not be its goal. And we as professors, the classroom itself, should just try bring the student to the point where he would see can begin to use the real world as a source for further knowledge. And in this real world, this outside world, we need to also be aware that none of us, like not even language professors, like perfect users of language. And so we need to discard this like kind of old-fashioned idea that plurilingualism was like the perfect proficiency in more than different language, like full command of different languages. And we thought it would be better to understand it, as Beaco said, as the capacity to use more than one language in more than one context with different commands among the languages, but always like in a communicative, in a successfully communicative way. And so we also decided to include this idea proposed by Professor Defay in 2015, something that this French professor labeled as plurilinguisme additive. Pardon my French, I mean, like lots of years of talking French. He would define this kind of plurilingualism as a dynamic, open kind of context, kind of system, in which there will always be like a certain more important language that normally would be like the native language of the speaker, that would be valid, or that would work with some kind of scaffolding in order to establish connections, establish references with the other languages that that person is learning. And eventually all those languages would cooperate together, and would cooperate together, establishing connections not only within the languages, but also within the different cultures, different realities that evolve around those languages. And so what are those cultures that I mentioned, and what are those cultures that we can bring to the class? If we focus in the LA world, the Spanish for language world, we would accept, and we would bring back to our study this structure proposed by Lourdes Miquel and Neu Sanz already in 1992. It's not a new model, but still valid. In which these two authors would talk about this culture with the capital C, more connected to sciences, history, literature. Culture with minor C, connected more with society and daily life events. And culture with a K, which would be more connected to individual features or slang, or more kind of personal and ghetto kind of knowledge. Within this cooperation of languages and cultures that we just mentioned a couple minutes ago, we would, the speaker of the learner would go through this process of acculturation, in which he, little by little, will miss parts of his native cultures, and will progressively adapt, or will progressively enter within the new cultures, within the new realities that happen, that work together with the new language. And so we decided to understand culture as not something closed, but same as Hammerly already in 1991 proposed, as anything linguistic, communicative, social, cultural, that students already know, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, and that can be valid and can be used in order to reinforce the learning. So it could be something connected to this cultural identity that Jan redefined in 2016. So within the class, we need to go a little bit further than this, just like native-like proficiency that we already studied, this communicative competence, linguistic competence, and decided to implement culture as a certain autonomous competence. And we did it following these examples proposed by Oliveras, who in early 2000, who described culture or cultural competence as not only knowing what to say, when to say it, who to say that, but also when to remain silent. That would be definitely the most cultural aspect of communication. And Peña y Gutiérrez in 2002 presented it with an even more trivial, basic example. This they talk about the idea of breakfast, desayuno, and they said that students wouldn't have any problem, like British student of Spanish wouldn't have any problem translating breakfast into desayuno. Spanish student of English wouldn't have any problem translating desayuno onto breakfast. But it would be more complicated, and really more complicated for these students for a Spanish student to understand that porridge can be considered a breakfast. It's still complicated for me still. And for a British student of Spanish, that would be complicated understanding that we grab a cookie, we soak it into the milk, and we bite it and we eat it, and we call that breakfast. So this is what we need to reinforce in the class, and we need to be students aware of these cultural differences, or like social differences, that go together with the language. And it's now where stereotypes appear in our research. Where are they? Back in 1981, most committee proposed a definition that we decided to accept for our research. And this author proposed that stereotypes are nothing but a social representation that seeks one side, other society, create categories within society, and at the same time, using those new categories, make communication easier. Liebman would say that this social categorization would be nothing but a confirmation bias, and that is, we tend to accept, and it's easier for us to accept something that we don't know, but it's closer to the previous, the previous representation that we had about that reality. Is that a problem? Is it bad? Not necessarily. As Garcia in 2014 talked about this ground of truth, this fondo de verdad in the original words, saying that, okay, probably same as we already mentioned at the very beginning, my Barcelona is not Messi, it's not Ramblas, it's not Sagrada Familia, it's probably 1,000 different things before those, but still Messi, Ramblas, Sagrada Familia represent Barcelona. And that ground of truth, that fondo de verdad, should be valid, should be useful in order to bring knowledge to the classroom. So having said this, what we did with our paper was that was done with a triple intention. First, a theoretical perspective, the thing we just commented. Secondly, an analytical perspective. We designed a chart, like a rubric that we would use, we would use to analyze different issues with a certain group of manuals belonging to the most used policy in Spanish books, in which we would analyze the kind of reference. Did it belong to the unit or some extra part of the book? Was it like real material that it was represented, or material designed just for that very specific linguistic, communicative, whatever kind of purpose? What type of culture was being presented? What type of sphere? Was it like personal sphere, labor, educational? Was it thinking on linguistics? Was it thinking on communication? Was it thinking on grammar? Was it thinking on what kind of skills, like speaking, reading, writing? What kind of references? And that is very important. Was it describing Spain? Was it describing the Hispanic world? Was it describing some other part of the world? The stereotype was being presented in a neutral, positive, or negative way. And finally, this intercultural attitude that was being presented, was being worked in the book, was some kind of identification of culture, assimilation of cultures, mediation within cultures, what was being done with the reality being presented. And finally, this practical intention that we will discuss later, this didactic proposal that we created out of this. We expected, of course, like this culture with minor C to be way more present than the other two. Spain to be more represented and more present in the books rather than Latin America or other parts of the world. And realities would be presented in a stereotypical kind of way, like not really going into details, but yeah, presenting like some kind of a broad image, some kind of a external narrator just describing what is happening, but not really going into details or trying to understand why those events were happening. What did we get? In terms of research, we got a corpus that we're currently expanding. We're currently launching a new edition of this book. So we're now analyzing the third edition of this book, which is being currently published. And in terms of analysis and kind of personal comments on this research, we could confirm that culture with minor C was more present than the other two. Spanish reality was broadly and broader depicted than Hispanic societies, Hispanic world. Realities were really and broadly stereotypical, and as we did expect, not a lot of details were being presented, but still these conclusions 2 and 3 were, it's not that we justify them, but we kind of understand, since all these books at a time were being designed and printed in Spain. This changed a little bit, and these publishing houses are like moving slowly to Latin America and kind of opening their perspective. Still at the time was kind of normal, we would say. And finally, is that the skills and attitudes promoted by the language teacher in all these cases are really important in order to better analyze the stereotypes can better discuss and present the different realities in the different societies and different cultures that are present in the books. So what now? As it's been already mentioned, in terms of methodology, like a new research is currently being developed, where taking new manuals, taking the evolution of these books and resources. The corpus is being enlarged, and no less than 22 manuals will be revised at the end of the paper of the new research. And in terms of didactics, this didactic proposal, cuando despertó, that we will be presenting now, which is a didactic proposal for B1, like superior B1 or B2 students of Spanish, in which we use these activities in order to revise the subjunctive, and no less than 4 or 5 hours of classwork plus a little bit of work out of the room. And basically, as we'll see, we've been trying to use as much real material as possible, trying not to create any material or any input by ourselves, but bringing real material, real text, real videos to the class, so the students can get used to that. We'll see that, and we'll briefly present this proposal so you can know it. Feel free to use it. You can get it from the presentation itself. I'll be sharing links. If not, feel totally free to contact me if you feel like using it. First of these sections will be First of the sections within the proposal. There's one que está desde. What do you know? And we would be asking students to present a. Let me get a pen so it will be easier. Present a positive, negative characteristics of themselves, their country, the country of the classmate, and Spain. And finally, describe themselves, their country, country of the classmate, Spain, with a single word. Try typing at maximum the ideas that they have about these countries. And of course, we could later discuss them a little bit and talk like present the reasons why they use those words. And also, we're presenting, and this can be used with a group as well. This idea proposed by Atlas of Prejudice, which was like a really interesting way, or like it says like 20 ways to slice a continent, 20 ways to tear Europe apart. See, you see this classical, modern, sunny, cloudy, tomato, potato, wine, beer, vodka, olive oil, butter, Europe. These ideas, of course, they do not fully represent the idea of Europe, but they are connected to these stereotypes, these broad ideas that we have about different countries. And of course, there's always this ground of truth, this fondo de verdad that we already mentioned, and students can use in order to present some of these visions and even create new ones. I've had really nice and funny proposals within my classes using these maps. After this, we would focus on Spain. Spain is different. This kind of hyper famous tourist logo that we proposed quite a few years ago. Okay, how can you describe your experience in Spain? Is there anything that surprised you? Can you explain like a funny anecdote, a weird anecdote? There's this reminder of the way we use subjunctive to talk about emotion, like feelings, the form itself, regular, irregular, and there's some extra work where they can talk about like the feelings about Spanish people and Spain. That's the way we are. Así somos. Like, again, talking about like fully stereotypical kind of reality, kind of description of Spain. This is also a kind of interactive kind of activity. All these ideas are taken from previous student experience, and every time I use this proposal, these activities, I update the ideas because I ask them to give them like their new opinion about Spain. They just can decide. I need to talk among themselves and decide whether they agree or disagree with the stereotypes being presented here. And they can again add new ones that, of course, I will be using in order to improve, in order to update the activity. Usted, Giri, sea sincero. We start here with the real material. And this Usted, Giri, sea sincero was an article proposed in the Spanish paper El País by Liam Aldu. I never know how to pronounce his name. Sorry, Liam. Who would like name Usted, Giri, sea sincero. Some of our españoles like are Spanish people lazy, or we're really lazy. So we have this word with the word giri, which is like a really common and fascinating word, and the evolution has changed a lot from a really bad kind of word to a funny, general old word now. And here we have different stereotypes being discussed, being presented by this Australian author. They can even visit the original article here. And okay, they can discuss a little bit, they can present their opinion, they can tell what they think about them. And finally, they can create a new text, kind of talking or explain their opinion, their experience about one of these stereotypes. Finally, the idea of life in a day. We try to introduce the concept a little bit. Not all of them will know, but really in my experience, some of them, like most of the students know what this life in a day format is, like this video proposal that it was like promoted quite a few years ago, where people needed to record themselves with the phone, with the home camera, and just like send the video, the clip to the movie director. And then there was this Spanish version promoted by Isabel Cochet, like film director, really good film director. And we will be following her experience, like knowing her experience, what did she do, why did she do it, and try answering these few questions, like knowing or like presenting some of the videos sent to the Spanish version of the life in a day. And finally, and this is the last part of the activity, students are supposed to record a short video in small groups, like presenting their experience in Spain. So they are like not presenting their own life in their own country as the idea in the original format, but they are presenting their experience in Spain, explaining, and that is the only condition, explaining something that surprised them, that shocked them of the Spanish life, Spanish society. They have like some hints here, some ideas if they want to script the video. And of course, we would be watching those videos and commenting those videos afterwards all together in class. That is all. There's always a thank you at the end of my activities. There's a new thank you now. Thanks for listening. Feel free to, you have my email, you have my name at the very beginning of the presentation. Feel free to contact me at any time. I'll be more than happy to share my materials, to answer any questions you may have. Thanks for your time. I will not be interrupting anymore. Thank you.